Hello everyone, Marco Montemagno here, Digital Domination Summit 2013, and the next guest, can I say that I love the next guest, Carmine Gallo. Hi Carmine, how are you going?
I love you too, Marco. It's nice to be here.
I know, first of all, I'm Italian, so I say Carmine, but I always hear people say Carmine, so I guess the right pronounce is Carmine, probably.
It's very Americanized. In America, they call me Carmine, but I prefer the Italian translation, which is Carmine Gallo.
All right.
Sounds so much nicer, doesn't it?
Yeah, Carmine Gallo is fantastic. And for people watching Digital Domination Summit videos, just two words about Carmine. I think we really know each other virtually for a long time now, years probably. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's exactly 5, 6 years, I think. And we never met each other, but this is, will happen sooner or later. And obviously, guys, Carmine is, for me, one of the best business coach, communication coach, and also my master for presentation. If I have to do a presentation, I always go to check Carmine books and try to get ideas for the next presentation. So Carmine is the go-to guy for me on these topics, which is so important because communication for a company is such a fundamental activity. So Carmine, let's start immediately from your last book, the Apple Experience, big success, and you did a very interesting analysis on how Apple they build their brand, and especially I was really enjoying the part on Apple Store because the Apple stores are an amazing idea of how a company should work. So
And they continue to be.
let's start from a very simple question: how a company can build a brand like Apple?
Well, look, you may not have the type of product
Right.
that can capture the imagination of millions and millions of consumers around the world, but you can certainly improve your product, the way it's communicated, and the way you deliver the experience to your customers. There is no question in my mind after spending 1 year researching the Apple retail store, as well as other companies, Marco, that inspired the Apple store.
Right.
For example, the Ritz-Carlton was a direct inspiration to the Apple store. So I studied all of the brands related to the Apple Store and the executives who left the Apple Store and what they did afterwards. And there are some very common themes that came out to me that
Okay.
go so far beyond the products. And that's why I really believe that anybody can learn from what Apple has done, especially as a brand and in its retail footprint, to improve their own company in any way, especially if they're young, small, or medium sized businesses.
Yeah.
And what I learned above all, Marco, was that the success of Apple retail goes so far beyond the products they sell. It actually starts with the people and how they are hired, trained, motivated, okay, and also taught to communicate to you and me, the customer, when we walk into an Apple store. It 90% communication, 10% product. And that applies to any
Yeah.
business, whether you're on the scale of Apple or whether you're just starting out.
Excuse me, Carmen, but I was at the Apple store, I think, 3 days ago in London. And one thing that I was really thinking about is the following. If you enter a store, usually in Italy, I think, the first question that people say is that when you enter the store, the employee usually say, "Hey, can I help?" And my classic answer is, "No, I'm just looking." That's my approach. At the Apple store, no one asks me, "Can I help?" They just arrive and they tell me a story like, have you been here before? Yes, no. If no, then they start to tell me a story. And then at the end, I say, "Please, can you help me?" They totally revert this approach. Is it done on purpose or?
Uh, the biggest lesson that I learned from the Apple Store is something that I've communicated now for several months to many other brands, and they're using it rather successfully. The Apple Store teaches its employees to walk the customer through 5 steps. It's
Okay.
actually called the 5 steps of service. And Marco, this is written down. It's given to everybody on a very small card that fits in their wallet.
All right.
And if you think of Apple as an acronym, APPLE, every letter corresponds to the beginning of one of the steps. Step number one, which you experienced, is called approach with a personal, warm welcome. That means greet somebody as soon as they walk through the door,
Right.
but not in a canned or phony way. Just recognize something about maybe what they're wearing, or
Okay.
who they're with, or why they're there, or if they happen to be standing around the iPhone table. You
Right.
can walk by and say, "Don't those new iPhones look really cool?" In other words, it's not a phony gesture like, "Welcome to the Apple Store. May I help you?" It's a little bit more informal. But the
Conversational.
point
Yeah.
is to greet you and to make you feel welcome as soon as you get into the store.
Right.
You'll also notice if you do talk to a salesperson for any length of time, for more than a few seconds, they will get your name, Marco, and they will try to use your name at least twice in the conversation.
To
Because
connect.
we all love hearing our name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the second step is very important. It starts with the first P. It's called probe politely to understand the customer's needs,
Okay.
which simply means I'm going to begin asking you a series of questions, open and closed-ended questions that will help me direct you to the product that best fits your needs.
Right.
And what I really enjoy about my experience and learning about the Apple Store, because they are a non-commissioned sales floor, they are not pressured to make sure that you buy a product by the time you enter the store or by the time you leave. They want to make sure that you feel good about the experience and that you recommend the experience to your friends or family.
Exactly.
So they will actually talk. Sometimes they don't like saying this publicly, but sometimes they will actually talk you down from a more expensive system that you don't necessarily need. That
Amazing.
rarely happens in retail today, Marco, but their point is they want to make sure that you have a good experience and that you feel good about the experience. They don't want to feel like you were pressured into buying something. It sounds simple, but very few retailers do that today.
Right. And tell me again the acronym. So, all right, A, approach. P is
P,
the.
probe politely to understand your needs.
All right.
I don't know what I can offer you if I don't really understand what your needs are.
Right.
The third step is present a solution that you can take home today.
Okay.
So let's say, Marco, you say, Carmine, this iPad it's $800. It's too expensive. I'm going to look around. I would say, that's fine. Please take your time, Marco. By the way, we have free classes here at the Apple Store where you can learn so much more about all the cool things you can do with the iPad. And you don't need to be an owner to sign up. I can sign you up for one. They happen here every afternoon.
Okay. Cool.
In other words, I've given you just a little something extra, and I've invited you back. The fourth step is listen for any issues or concerns that maybe you don't even bring up. You don't tell me, but I'm listening for any issues that you might have. For example, if you told me, well, this iPad is too expensive, well, maybe you don't need the top of the line iPad.
Okay.
Maybe you just need the 16 gigabyte iPad.
Yeah.
And finally, and I like this step the best, end with a fond farewell and an invitation to return. And these are actually the terms they use, Marco. End with a fond farewell, but I will invite you to return. So I can say, Marco, I'm sure you're going to enjoy your new iPad. You said that you wanted to learn more about using photo albums. We have free classes in the store beginning tomorrow that will teach you how to use a photo album. When you first make your first photo album, would you come back to the store and show it to me? I'd love to see it.
Right.
You probably won't come back to the store, Marco, but I made you feel really good about this relationship. And at the end of this entire transaction, when they send you a survey, which they do in the mail, right, or by email, they send you a survey, Apple does, on a scale of 0 to 10. how likely are you to recommend this experience to a friend? There's no way, Marco, you would answer anything less than 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah.
If I have walked you through those 5 steps. But see, it's all communication. The 5 steps are the key to Apple retail success, the most profitable store on the planet. And it's all communication.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was thinking that I recently bought a laptop, not, I don't know, a kind of Windows 8 laptop, whatever. Just I need a backup, and I enter in a chain of, selling this kind of stuff. And they did exactly the opposite of all the steps that you did. And when I came out, I thought I will never come back, here. But I mean, it was nothing related with the product. I mean, I'm happy with that product, but I had an horrible experience. So, and every time I enter in an Apple store, even if I'm not an Apple evangelist, I don't believe in the church of Steve or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But it is an amazing experience. And I would say a lot of companies, they try to copy it, is right.
They try to copy. Here in the United States, we have a number of companies, including Microsoft, that build stores that look exactly like the Apple Store. Not a little, exactly.
Okay.
But there's something missing. And the reason why it's missing is because of this constant training in the way employees communicate with their customers. But Marco, if I can apply this, there was one thing I learned. I'd love to apply this to your audience today. Your audience, you have chosen thought leaders from many different fields. That's the secret to creativity. That is the secret to unleashing innovation and creative ideas. You don't want to hear from people just in your field. You want to apply ideas from completely different fields.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the biggest revelations I learned after studying the Apple Store. I learned, and this is very few people actually know this, the best innovations in the Apple Store were copied from brands and companies completely outside of consumer electronics.
Serious?
When you walk to the back of an Apple Store, you see the Genius Bar. The Genius Bar was a direct inspiration from the Ritz-Carlton.
Okay.
Executives, Steve Jobs and some other people, they decided, what brand should we study? This was in 2001 when they were about to open the store. What brand should we study? And they decided, Steve Jobs said, I don't want to study another computer company. What is the best experience for people in terms of the customer service? And they said, well, probably a great hotel like a Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
So when you walk in the back of a Ritz-Carlton, there's a bar. So now there's a Genius Bar in the Apple Store. Instead of dispensing alcohol, right, they dispense advice. But that was a direct lesson from the Ritz-Carlton. And also, you may notice something else, Marco, when you walk into an Apple Store. You will not find a cashier.
Okay.
There's no cashier in an Apple Store.
You're right.
But there is a concierge. So many of the best ideas were actually, many of the best ideas were copied from different, from different brands. But that was one of the brilliant, innovative, and creative secrets of Steve Jobs. He always looked outside of his field for inspiration, which is why I'm enjoying what you're doing here today, which is, we're really getting some of the best ideas from completely different fields.
And you think, Carmine, that you can apply these principles even if you're not a multi-billion-dollar brand who already has, amazing, successful products and everything? Because, as you say, I was thinking, it's just communication principles, right?
Let me give you one true example that actually surprised me. I received an email a few months ago, and now I've started a relationship with this physician. He's a doctor here in the United States. He's actually in Dallas. He read the book. He looked through the 5 steps of service, just as you and I are talking, and he said to himself, well, we're building a new hospital here in Dallas. Why can't we apply the 5 steps to the patient the patient and the doctor experience. So now when you walk into this new hospital that they're still building, they're going to have 6 steps. It's called We Care, WECARE.
Right.
You know, but they're very similar steps that apply to the patient-doctor experience. So again, it's forcing people to think just a little differently about how they communicate their brand, their organization, and what they're doing to their customers.
Amazing. One thing, Carmine, that I'm curious about is just off topic this, but when you enter in an Apple store now, okay, or when you have to deal with Apple, I mean, you are the person who probably studied more deeper, you know, the Apple system, Apple brand, and also before, I just remember to the guys watching this video, I mean, Carmine wrote 2 books about Steve Jobs, Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, which is the Bible of presentation for me, and Innovation Secrets of Steve Jobs. I have a problem with the title because in Italian was translated with totally different titles, so I don't know if it's the right title. Yes. But one was more about the presentation technique and strategy from Steve Jobs, and the other one was more about innovation and innovation business of Steve Jobs. And so when you have to deal with Apple, they see you, you know, like when someone go in a casino and win everything, and casino say, no, please don't come anymore, or they see you, you know, as a resource for them to keep on working on their brand. How is the relationship?
That's a very good question. The reason why I actually wrote the Apple Experience, I wrote a book that you know, The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs, because I consider Steve Jobs, I still consider Steve, based on YouTube, probably the best presenter of corporate information products that anybody can ever do. I'm on YouTube every day. It's very hard to find a better presenter than those old clips from Steve Jobs introducing the MacBook Air or the iPhone for the first time. They're just really wonderful presentations. I received a call from a manager at one of the Apple retail stores here in the U.S.
Okay.
And although Apple corporate doesn't promote my books, of course, they're very secretive, some managers within some of the Apple stores were using presentation secrets to give to their new employees, to teach them how to communicate better. And that's when I realized, and this is a true story, the manager said, Carmine, even though we're not giving a PowerPoint presentation, we're presenting all the time. Think of the sales floor as the stage. And that's when I realized, oh, there's more to it. Maybe I should write a book just on Apple retail.
Crazy.
But the one thing I want to tell all of our viewers, Marco, is that there are great presenters everywhere. It could be in the cubicle next to you. It could be your boss. It could be your CEO. Many people do things, they may not have a complete package like Steve Jobs did, but they do things that you can learn from. You should always be looking at different communicators and thinking, what is it that they do that connects with their audience? Because there's a lot of things that you can learn, obviously, from pretty much anybody. And one of the great lessons that I got, this was in 2009, I believe that's when you and I first met. I saw a presentation that you gave, and I believe it was on YouTube, or maybe it was on your website, where you got the audience, this was in Italy, you actually got them engaged. You were doing exercises and activities that got the entire audience participating and interacting. And I learned something from that. I didn't know you at the time, but I thought, wait a minute, I should be creating more opportunities within my own presentations where I can engage and get the audience to participate in that presentation, not just deliver information, but get them to participate. And I learned that directly from you, and I consider you a absolutely magnificent presenter. And I'm not just saying that. You know, the point is, you can learn from so many people. You don't have to just think about Steve Jobs, although he did it well. There are many great presenters in different countries, and the beauty of YouTube now, speaking of digital domination, is that you can actually see these presenters for yourself and see exactly what they're doing to connect with their audience.
Yeah. Well, one thing, Carmine, I'll be back on presentation topic in a minute. I was curious to have your opinion about several, we have so many social media platforms at the moment. So I was thinking, when you do your business coaching activity, your communication coaching activity, how do you, what do you suggest to your clients? I mean, for instance, Twitter is so powerful in this moment. Is any tip that you can give on how to survive all this platform around that so many times companies try or to use everything or to use nothing, or they do little tests? There is a little bit of confusion, I think, on this topic. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I am not a big fan of the way many brands and individuals are using Twitter. I think Twitter is one of the great platforms for reaching and connecting with your customers in ways that were never possible before Twitter. And I know you accept that. But so many brands just don't seem to take advantage of that. They use Twitter as a broadcast medium. So every once in a while, they'll post a press release. Instead, the brands that are really using Twitter effectively are brands like Virgin. Here in the States, we have Virgin America. I know in the UK, obviously, you have Virgin Atlantic. But here in the States, Virgin America is very active on Twitter. If you tweet, and go ahead and try this, some of your viewers, go ahead and try this. If you tweet at Virgin America, most likely they will respond to you. They have fun with you. I have actually been on a number of planes, because they have Wi-Fi on their planes, where people are interacting with the Virgin America brand. They have about 3 full-time social media experts on the plane.
Okay.
And they're saying what they like or what they don't like.
Okay.
Or they're posting pictures, and they get responses. In other words, there's a real person behind the Twitter account, and they're having fun with customers. They're answering questions by their customers. True story. I was on a Virgin America plane, and I forgot something in the seat. I forgot a file folder. So I tested them. This was a Sunday afternoon. I was in a grocery store, and I forgot the plane ride was on Saturday. So I said to myself, well, let me see if they'll leave an answer. So I tweeted them in a grocery store, and I said, "What? I forgot my folder on this plane, on this flight. What should I do about it?"
Yeah.
By the time I left the grocery store a few minutes later on a Sunday, I had a response directly from Virgin America, and it was a very customized response. "Oh, so sorry to hear that. Here's exactly what you should do." And they sent me a link.
Amazing.
The point is, Marco, that I cannot tell you how many brands I interact with. And I'm a journalist, okay? I write for Forbes.com. So I'm constantly asking individuals and brands if they want to be in my column, or I'm asking them questions. I can't tell you how few brands I actually get a response from.
Amazing.
Almost nobody.
Amazing.
There's only a handful of people or brands that respond on Twitter. So if you're going to have a social media presence, would you please use it? Use it to have
Do something with it. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. I was thinking that I had a problem once in Italy with a telecommunication company, and not only they didn't answer to my question, okay, but when they replied, they were pissed off with me, so they were attacking their client. Yeah, so this is crazy. Another thing.
You brought up a good point. You brought up a good point on Twitter, and you asked the question. What's the one thing that brands and individuals can do more effectively? Okay, pick a social media platform. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Okay, there's a million platforms. Understood. Go with some of the biggest, to start with, especially. But if you're gonna use a platform, use it.
Yeah.
Have real conversations with people. Don't just use it to broadcast marketing messages. That doesn't get us anywhere.
I hope this phrase is in Creative Commons, Carmine. if you're gonna pick a platform, if you're gonna use it, because yeah, actually, company forget this little detail, but it's very important.
Yes.
And another point, Carmen. Obviously, I will stay here to talk hours with you, but I have a few minutes more, so I'll try to be to zip all my questions. Another point is about the story of a company. And everyone say, oh, now so important, story is so important. You have to tell a good story. Storyteller are the new superheroes and everything. But few people say, yeah, but how should I deliver my story? How should I create my story? So that's the point, because you can create an horrible story. So story enough is not enough. So what do you think? What's your tip on this point for business who want to create a good story?
That's a very good question, because you're right. I think we hear so much about storytelling. What does that mean to create a good story? The best advice I can offer is be as personal as you can. It's amazing in corporations today, people want to look and sound just like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
I just a few days ago, I talked to a web designer working on a financial website. And the words they use are not just regular, everyday, plain English common words. It has to be very, very formalized, very financial sounding,
Okay.
because everybody else sounds like that. Well, how are you going to differentiate yourself if you don't have fun with your brand?
Right.
If you don't speak to people in a very unique, authentic voice? And very few corporations, I think, have the courage to do that. In terms of storytelling, Marco, I believe in showing more of being more transparent. On your website, show videos of your employees talking about why they love the brand. Tell personal stories about yourself or case studies of customers who are using your product or your brand.
Right.
We know so little about the corporation, because it's all behind the wall. Instead of letting people in, let me give you one good example of that, Marco. Here in America, we have Zappos, Zappos.com, which is one of the premier online shopping sites today. They sell shoes and other clothing online. They are now considered, at least here in the U.S., a real gold standard when it comes to customer service and their online presence. Well, one of the reasons why they do that is they're very transparent.
Right.
Very transparent, very open. When I visited Zappos headquarters, imagine this. Here's a journalist visiting headquarters. They let me interview anybody I wanted to. They let me roam around corporate headquarters as much as I wanted to.
That's crazy.
Unaccompanied. Because they were confident of the people they hire and confident about the brand. And so they welcomed that. They wanted me to take pictures. They wanted me to take video and to upload it on YouTube and to show people having fun and having conversations. In other words, the way they create a story is by letting people in and showing you their culture and talking about their culture on YouTube, on their website, showing videos, showing photographs, Instagram, photographs,
Yeah.
Facebook photographs, by being open instead of being closed.
Yeah, and again, this is not a matter of product. I mean, it's a matter of culture, it's a matter of communication, it's a matter of, creating a situation where this kind of approach become doable for everyone. So it's really interesting.
Marco, Zappos sells shoes.
Yeah.
They sell shoes. Come
Yeah.
on.
That-
There's a million companies that sell shoes.
Yeah, right.
But they have created something special.
Yeah.
Because it goes beyond the product. It's culture, exactly as you said.
I had the opportunity to do an interview with Jeff Bezos once, and I remember it was, I think, 1 month after they bought Zappos. And so I say, sorry, Jeff, I don't understand anything probably of this world, and you know much better than me. But why did you buy a company who sells shoes? So I exactly asked these kind of things. And he was looking at me like, oh, you really don't get it. I say, Jeff, whatever you say is good. I mean, you are the dive in, you know.
He's the man.
Yeah,
Yes.
so- Carmine, let me end this chat. I was really enjoying really talking with you, Carmine. I'm so happy to have you here. But let me finish about presentations. Every company do presentations every day, and as you say, that in an Apple store, I mean, those guys, they do a presentation every second with customer. They are on stage. And I think startups, entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs, they have to pitch their company, their startup to investors or to find partners or co-founders and so on. Can you try to give, very simple tips for creating a better presentation, which is obviously a topic where, you could speak years, but did you discover any kind of pattern that you see when you see successful presenters? You think, gosh, those guys, they more or less have always this kind of habits.
Yeah, absolutely. There, obviously, you and I could talk for a long time on this topic. Let me give your viewers something very tangible and actionable. This gets back to story. Before you create a presentation that's mission critical in any way, it's pitching to investors, pitching to customers, explaining your product or strategy. Before you create a presentation, remember it has nothing to do with PowerPoint or Prezi, one of the other topics you're discussing. It doesn't matter what the tool is. It's all about the story. So have a story first. Right. Don't open PowerPoint or Prezi or Apple Keynote. Think about what your story is. What is the story behind the product? And then you can create a multimedia presentation that complements the story. Well, what do I mean by multimedia presentation? Well, if the story has something to do with something you experienced, I don't want to see a table. I don't want to see a pie chart. I want to see a picture of you having that experience. If the story has to do with something you saw online or a video you saw on YouTube, let's see the video.
Right.
Don't go to a pie chart. And always remember that simplicity rules. Okay, I could spend an hour on the science of this, Marco. So take my word for it. People do not process information well when there are too many words on a slide. And there's science behind why that's the case. So very simple slides, more images than text, few words, and make sure that you tell the story first. The slides complement the story. It's not about the slides, it's about the story.
I don't remember when, but there is a legendary video from Bobby McFerrin, the singer, and once he had to do a presentation to explain music, I don't know, and instead of doing presentation, he just started to make the audience sing while he was moving, and it was an amazing video. I mean, I thought, gosh, you see, he could start with slides and everything, or talking about music. He just, did a different thing, and the audience were so happy. And
anyone can actually look that up. I know it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant. He didn't use slides. He didn't give a formal presentation. He just said, here's how music's created.
Yeah.
A little audience participation. He sang a note. They sang a note. He walked the audience through the sequence. And then at the end he said, and that's it.
Yeah. Great.
It's very memorable.
Carmine, last question. What are your favorite tools for business productivity or to be more efficient? Do you have 3 apps or 3 websites or 3 tools that you particularly love?
Well, the first one has to do with communication.
Right.
And that's SlideShare, slideshare.com.
Okay.
And that, of course, is the premier website for uploading and sharing presentations. Especially in a corporate environment, if you have a brand and you are delivering presentations that talk about your product or your service, go ahead and upload it to slideshare.com. Share your presentation. Share it openly. They get 30 million, 40 million, something like that, visitors per month. And it's just another way of branding yourself and getting your content out there. So SlideShare, I visit every week. I also use Tweetdeck.
And excuse me, Carmine, you did some amazing presentations. I remember one about Foursquare, for instance. So
Yes.
guys, go have a look to Carmine presentations, because there are excellent templates to follow also to create interesting presentation to post on SlideShare. Sorry.
And I think you'll learn something also from the presentations that I uploaded. I wish I could take credit for them. I used a professional presentation design firm.
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money, okay? But some people are just better than others at visually displaying information.
Yeah.
So go ahead and look around. It's okay for you not to design every one of your slides.
Right.
Maybe you can have somebody else do it who might be a better designer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have a couple of other tools?
Yes, the other one is Tweetdeck. And
Okay.
Tweetdeck, of course, is an app, but what I really like about Tweetdeck, remember we talked about you have to be very engaged on Twitter. If you do want to send things out, you can actually schedule tweets on Tweetdeck so that they can go out during certain times of the day rather than you physically having to tweet it out every single time. So that, as an entrepreneur and a small business owner myself, I find that has been very helpful.
Right.
So I can tweet out information at all times of the day, even when I'm sleepy. So I use the app called Tweetdeck. That's been very powerful.
Excellent.
And finally,
Yeah.
Forbes.com.
Well,
because that's what
I
write
heard
for.
this name is something.
I write a column on leadership and communication for Forbes.com. And I write quite frequently every week. So you can follow me on Forbes.com if you'd like to read more.
Excellent. Carmine, thank you so much. Carmine Gallo. Just check. Tell me again your website, carminegallo.com?
That's the easiest one.
All right,
Just if
carminegallo.com,
you
and then from
remember
there you
my
can
name.
go deep in all the activities. Carmine, thank you so much, and good luck for everything.
Thanks for inviting me.